high intensity training, hybrid training. So all of that we'll discuss next week. And the week after that, we'll be talking a kind of a similar kind of a high intensity, which will be more about like supplements, dietary supplements, as well as bone health. We'll be focusing a bit more on bone health because a lot of supplements, whether it's collagen or calcium, magnesium, vitamin K, a lot of those things are quite significant for bone health. And so we're not talking much about nutrition or food at all the next 3 weeks. Today is exercise. Next week is cardio. The week after that will be supplements and bone health. So just to let you know how it's going to transpire. Uh, Before we start, I'm just going to start recording as well. You just gotta bear with me for 1 minute. I'm gonna go get my water bottle and then we'll start. Okay, one second. All right. And there's one more little thing I want to do. I want to just quickly connect my Bluetooth headphone. In the meantime, if anyone wants to talk about your experience with resistance training, how much do you do? Uh, did you do it in the past, but you stopped now? What's going on with resistance training right now? Maybe we can have Maulik tell us. Maulik, what about you?
Yeah, no, sure, doc. So it's been on and off, I would say. I think space where like I used to do thrice a week. I had a personal trainer, but then it just went off track. So I would say not very regular. But walking like summers have been pretty good generally for the walks and pickleball from that perspective. So that helps, but probably need to make it more formalized for sure throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yitende, what about you, Mr. Biola?
Yeah, it's off and on for me. Sometimes you do, but I try to maintain walking every day, except during the winter. But for normal exercises, I just like 1 day off, 1 day on, depending on how I feel in the morning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Got it. And what about you, Anju?
I walk every day, but problem is I did hire a personal trainer, did not work for me. I don't know what's my body just rejects everyone. So does not let anybody work with me. So I don't know what to do. I'm trying yoga now, but let's see how it goes. But I don't know why it rejects everyone. Yeah, that's what is happening with me. But I still
Right,
do
right.
yoga. I still do walking 1 hour at least every day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what about you, Mesha? Mesha joined us as well. Mesha, what about you? Do you do resistance training, weights, anything like that?
I do. I do half an hour each day. I picked it up just because I need to build back some muscles.
That's really good. Half an hour each day.
Yeah.
That's quite good. Okay. All right. So let's talk about an ideal resistance training program now. So I'm going to start my screen share. I think I'll do desktop as background. And if I remember, I'm recording this, am I not? Oh, I'm not. Okay, hold on, I need to record this. Right, so resistance training is a really important part of not just improving metabolic health, but so many other parameters. And if you need to revise anything on today's talk, just go on this blog, Reverse Exercise to Reverse Diabetes, a beginner's guide to resistance training for muscle growth. And so why is resistance training important? Well, first of all, for the whole concept of metabolic health, metabolic disease occurs in a person who is genetically predisposed to it. But the primary thing which happens within the body is a progressive gain in muscle, gain in fat mass, particularly visceral belly fat, and loss in muscle mass. And you can almost put it down to a ratio of muscle to belly fat in a person with genetic susceptibility. And so while losing belly fat is important, particularly internal fat, it's also important to gain muscle because it is a ratio, it's a balance. Apart from that, if you just visualize a person in a nursing home, perhaps sitting in a chair, wanting to go to the bathroom but can't get off the chair, waiting for a helper to come and help that person off the chair. And on the other hand, you have another person, same age, but independent, walking around, going for hikes. The primary difference between those two people is one person has muscles and the other person does not. Okay. So that's really the primary difference between those two people. And so muscles not only improve your metabolic health, they also improve your quality of life, particularly later in life. Now, some people feel that they don't have much effect on longevity, but that's also a myth. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that if someone were to fall down and break their hip, then their life expectancy is worse than a person diagnosed with cancer. Almost half of them would die within the next 6 months. And this wouldn't just be because of complications related to the hip fracture. This could be related to blood clots, to pneumonia, to other conditions related to frailty. Just to say that losing muscle versus metabolic health, it worsens your quality of life and it can also lead to earlier death. So muscles are important. 1 second, just gonna mute everyone here. Oh, Felix has joined as well. Okay, good, good, good. Just gonna go back to the talk. Yep. Now, before the first thing I want to do today is go through some jargon with you because it'll help you understand the whole concept better. So first of all, what is reps? Reps is short form for repetitions. So if you're doing, let's say, bicep curls, the number of times you do that is the number of repetitions that you do. If you are elderly, frail, prone to injury, recovering from injury, then you could certainly go for a higher number of reps and lower weight. And if you feel more confident, if you're quite strong, you're quite conditioned, you could definitely try higher weights and lower amount of reps. Once you complete a set of reps, that's called a set. That's a set. So you could be doing a set of 6 reps, a set of 12 reps. A split is how you design your exercise. For example, you could have a full body split or you could have a half body split. So a full body split could be, for instance, 4 compound exercises which target the entire body. Compound exercises mean exercises which include multiple muscles, the opposite of what would be described as isolation exercises. So as an example, if you want to hit upper body push, upper body pull, core, and lower body. So if you want to do push-ups, pull-ups, crunches, and squats, that's 4 compound exercises hitting all 4 parts: upper body push, upper body pull, core, and lower legs. That would be a full body split. You could technically do that 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The reason you would keep that gap is because each muscle group requires 48 hours rest when you do exercise. On the other hand, if you decided to go to the gym 4 days a week, let's say Monday to Thursday, something like that, then you could do a half body split. Because it's not really possible to design a 48-hour rest for each muscle group. So you could do upper body push and core one day, and you could do the next day upper body pull and legs. And that way you'll be able to design a program, a split, that's what we call a split, which allows 48 hours rest. Now, for ideal exercise, you need about 9 to 10 sets per week for a particular muscle group. So bear in mind, if you were going to the gym 3 days a week and doing a full body split, you could get away with just 3 sets of each body part 3 days a week, which makes it 9 sets in the week. On the other hand, if you were doing a half body split, which means you're only attacking that muscle group 2 times a week, you would have to incorporate at least 5 sets into that exercise program when you do a half body split. So that's something else to keep in mind. What's a 1 rep max, which is the maximum weight that you can lift with good form just once. And so 1 rep max is used to denote intensity of exercise. So if you're quite fit, if you're not injured, you could make it more intense. You could lift weights which are, let's say, 60 to 80% of your 1 rep max. But if you're frail, if you're prone to injury, or if you're recovering from injury, you could certainly go for less than that, maybe 40 to 50% of 1 rep max. Studies show that as long as you equate for volume, the amount of muscle that you grow is quite similar. Now, what is volume? Volume is the total amount of work that is done. So volume is the number of reps times the number of sets times the total amount of weight that you push. That is volume. Next, what's progressive overload? Progressive overload is when you're gradually increasing the amount of volume of exercise. And this is very important for growing muscle. This is probably the most common mistake I see at the gym. See, a lot of people, you go to the gym and they're lifting those same pink weights every single time. And over the last few years, you don't see them having changed at all. Now, if you're just trying to maintain muscle, that's fine. But if you're trying to grow muscle, you do need to gradually increase the volume so that your muscles grow. That's what's called progressive overload. Supersets is a more technical thing which can just allow you to get done faster. It's a time-saving kind of thing. So there is an ideal recovery period for your muscles, and we'll just quickly move to recovery real quick. Between sets, you need to rest for 1.5 to 3 minutes. And between a full exercise block, that muscle group needs to rest about 48 hours. Other components of recovery include adequate sleep, adequate diet with lots of hydration, good amounts of anti-inflammatory, antioxidant agents, all the colors you see in vegetables, fruits and spices. that's all part of recovery. And what supersets is trying to achieve is just a faster exercise block by alternating between two exercises which are hitting two very different parts of your body to be able to give rest a bit faster. Let me give you an example. Let's say you get on a machine for preacher's curls. Okay, preacher's curls are for your biceps. One way you could do it is you could just do a set. Let's say you're doing a set of 6 or a set of 12. Then you wait for 1.5 to 3 minutes. So you can just get on your phone, you can scroll for a bit, and then you can do another set. And then you get back on your phone and scroll for a bit and do another set. You wait for 1.5, 3 minutes between each set. The other way you could do it, if you have less time and you have, let's say, a leg extensions machine for your quadriceps ready right next to this machine, well, you could do your preacher curl, then you could go to the leg extension, because while you're doing leg extension, your upper body is automatically getting rest. And then you come back to the preacher curl and you go back to the leg extension. So you're alternating two exercises. That's called supersets. It's just a time-saving maneuver. I would highly recommend you do that if you're at home or if you are at a very empty gym where there are multiple machines of that kind and you're not hogging up any machines. So you could technically hog up two machines and do supersets. But if there was just one machine at the gym and other people are eyeing it, I would definitely not recommend supersets, because you'll make yourself very unpopular and you might even get someone come to you and ask you to get off the machine. Okay. What's failure? It's exercising to a point where you can do one more rep with good form. What's reps in reserve? This is kind of highlighting that not every single set needs to go to failure. You don't need to go to absolute fatigue for every single set. For example, if you're doing a half body split, which means you're doing 5 sets of that exercise, you might keep some reps in reserve for the first 3 or 4 sets, which means you might stop the exercise 1 or 2 reps before failure. That's called reps in reserve. Typically, people would only go to failure, which means the absolute end of fatigue, where you cannot do one more rep, in the last set, or maybe the second last and the second last set. And this is also a way of protecting yourself from injury, because if you go to failure every single rep, every single set, then there is more risk of injury. And there isn't that much greater benefit of doing that. What's form? Form is just maintaining good posture and good body position during exercises so that you can isolate the desired muscle. And the opposite of this would be called ego lifting, where you're just lifting it for your own ego. You could be shaking all over the place, using lots of other accessory muscles in the process. So not really isolating that muscle. You don't really have good, mind-muscle connection. You're just focusing on the concentric. You're not focusing on the eccentric, which is a pull down. So that's not very good form. And I would just recommend, I'm not going to be coaching you on good form. There are lots of good YouTube channels. Jeff Nippard is one. Athlean X is another one. There are loads of good YouTube channels you can go and you can learn. If there are certain exercises you've decided you're going to do, then you can definitely go on YouTube and learn how to do it properly, how to maintain good form. Recovery we already talked about. Anabolism is the concept of building muscle. It primarily needs 3 things. It needs protein, it needs stimulus, which is exercise, and it needs calories. So 1.6 grams per kilogram per day of protein is the ideal protein intake for anabolism. If any of you haven't started tracking your calories and macros on Snap Calorie, Cal.ai, or Macro AI, then I would highly recommend you start doing that, because it's really difficult to really track your calories and protein adequately if you're not using an app. Anabolic window is the time window within which you want to really consume the bulk of your protein to give it maximum benefit for the exercise. There's a lot of debate around this. Most experts would now agree on a 12-hour window, which is about 6 hours before the resistance training and 6 hours after. So a total of about 12 hours. So that's really, if you're planning to bulk up your protein intake by having more, say, 0% Greek yogurt or a protein bar, or if you're planning to have more a protein smoothie, for example, then try to keep that within the 12 hours of your exercise to get maximum benefit. Some more rules to remember: you need 9 to 10 sets per muscle group per week to build muscle effectively, and each muscle group, remember, requires that 48 hours of rest. So that was just some definitions there. Before we go to the next, let's have some questions and answers. Okay. All right. Anyone have any Q's and A's? I see Upasna's joined. Oh, good. Good to see you, Upasna. And Ujjwal has joined. Felix has joined. Excellent. Any questions, everyone? Anyone?
If you don't progressively increase your weight, Dr. Rawat, then what happens? Like if you just want to maintain your strength, but you don't want to bulk up, but you don't want to lose muscle mass as well, and you're not consistently increasing your muscle weights that you're using, does it still count as exercise? Like I've been exercising with 5 pounds for so long now.
Yeah, well, that's the most common mistake I see at the gym. And I would recommend that we should all aim to increase it slowly. You can be very gradual with it. If you could do it every 2 weeks, if you like. But
Okay.
I'll give you my own example. I'll show you here. Look. Oh, I don't want to show you my bank details. Find the right one here. 1 second. Here it is. Yeah. So, for example, here, look. You can see my gym routine. I've got everything written down, the number of how much weight I'm pushing, what exercise it is, the number of reps I'm doing. I've got one for my gym routine, and I've got a different one for my basement routine, because I have a separate routine for the basement gym as well.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I write it all down, because there's no way that you can know that you can effectively increase the weights if you don't know what you're doing in the first place. I mean, if you're doing a whole variety of exercises, it's difficult to remember exactly what weights you're pushing. And so I do highly recommend that. Yeah. Even if
And
you want to be very gradual, like 2.5 pounds at a time, every 2 weeks or something, just be very gradual if you're worried about that.
okay. And one more quick question. Strength training usually, is it okay to do twice a week?
If you do it twice a week, it would be quite difficult for you to hit your 9 sets per week.
Okay.
If you did 5 sets of each muscle group on one day, and then you did 4 sets of each muscle group the next day,
That's a
you
lot.
could do it, but that would be a lot of exercise. That would probably
Yeah.
be at least 1 hour, 1.5 hours at the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if you want to hit every single muscle group, you need to do at least one upper body push, like a push-up, one upper body pull, like something with a resistance band or curls or maybe pull-ups, at least one for the core, which would be like rowing machine or perhaps an ab roller or crunches, and something for your lower legs, like squats or leg extensions. So you need at least 4 exercises,
Yeah.
and you need to do 9 sets to grow muscle. So if you could do it 2 days a week, but you would be doing at least 5 sets of 4 exercises, which is 20 sets,
That's a
which
lot.
is a lot of exercise. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, that was a good set of questions. We'll have some more questions later. Let's carry on with the talk. I'll just go ahead and mute everyone again. All right, so we want to read some studies. I have some studies here for all of you to look at. This was by Brad Schoenfeld. There are some real titans of the field of muscle growth. So you've got Brad Schoenfeld, Stuart Phillips, Don Lehman. These are really renowned researchers in the field. Stuart Phillips is based out of McMaster University. Brad Schoenfeld is based out of New York, I believe. Don Lehman is more, I think, like southern US. So now some of you will be like, I can't go to the gym for 45 minutes, 1 hour, or I don't want to spend 1 hour in the basement. There was one more strategy, and it's called exercise snacks. Some of you work from home, you have some disposable time when you're working from home. You could instead do exercise snacks. I'll give you an example. If you did a set of push-ups, a set of body weight squats, a set of sit-ups or plank, and some pull-ups, or you could also do any kind of curl or any kind of resistance band pull, that would be a full body workout. That could be done within 10 minutes. And it would include every single muscle group. Now, what you could do instead of spending 45 minutes in the evening is do that 3 times a day before every meal. So make a rule for yourself. For 10 minutes or 15 minutes before every meal, before breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I'll do one set of push-ups, one set of squats, one set of sit-ups, and one set of pull-ups or curls or anything like that. And you do that 3 times a week, 3 times a day. That will be equivalent to a 45 1-hour session at the gym. And if you do that 3 times a week, 3 days a week, that would satisfy your 9 sets per week. Now, this is what I do more often, cardio snacks, because I find cardio extremely boring. And our talk next week is all about cardio. But I find cardio extremely boring. Even if I'm watching a really interesting YouTube video, I still find it extremely boring. So I cannot, for the life of me, I cannot walk on a treadmill or run on a treadmill or bike for half an hour. It's just not possible for me. So instead, I do cardio snacks, particularly when I'm working from home, because those are also my low calorie days. So just a 10-minute walk or on the elliptical or on the exercise bike or on the rowing machine after each meal. That'll make it 30 minutes. And if you like, in the evening, in that last session, you can add some high intensity training at the end of that session. And that's what I do. So I would look at the clock and I would do 15 seconds of high intensity, 45 seconds rest, 15 seconds high intensity, 45 seconds rest. And I would do that HIIT kind of cycle. Depends how tired I am, anything from 3 to 5 cycles at the end of 30 minutes of steady state zone 2 cardio. Now we will talk about steady state zone 2 cardio, high intensity exercise, hybrid exercise, plyometric and isometric and all of that. We will talk about all of that next week. That's all about cardio. But just saying, exercise snacks can be in the form of resistance training. Usually I don't do this. Usually I do this because I go to the gym for my resistance training. But for any reason, if I cannot go to the gym, as an example, let's say I've been called for dinner. I know I'll be eating a lot of calories and protein. And so I always try to match my resistance training days with my high calorie, high protein days. However, let's say I'm working that day and I don't have time to go to the gym. I might try to do resistance training exercise snacks on those days, even if it means I have to close the door in my office and do a set of push-ups and a set of sit-ups and a set of squats. I wouldn't be able to do the pull-ups, but I could do those 3 things. And so if I can go to the gym, I will then compensate with the exercise snack at the office, at the gym. But cardio snacks, I definitely do. And there is some really good evidence. I mean, there was this study here that in diabetics published in Diabetes Care, in which they had 41 adults. They compared one group doing a 30-minute walk compared to another group doing a 10-minute walk after each meal. So 30 minutes total, but 10 minutes after each meal. And they saw a 12% further reduction in sugar in those clients doing the 10-minute walks after each meal, which makes sense. You eat food, your sugar's up, you go for a walk or you do some cycling or you get on your elliptical, you burn the sugar off. And so you'll get less of a sugar spike. by doing that. And so there is more benefit of doing it in a snack kind of format. It's getting back to what we were talking about again. If you exercise 3 days a week, you could do a full body split. You could do it either in the form of snacks or in the form of just one big session. You could have 4 exercises which target upper body push, upper body pull, core, and lower body. And if you're doing it, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, you're giving yourself a natural 48 hours rest. If you're going to the gym 4 days a week, you could even do a half body split where, for example, you could do upper body push and cores on one day. And because this is 2 very different body parts, you could even do supersets where you alternate these exercises. The next day, you could do upper body pull and legs. And that way, you're naturally getting that 48-hour rest for each body part as well. Of course, this is a study which looked at the amount of intensity. The more the intensity is, the more you'll grow muscle. This is an example of progressive overload. 15 pounds for 6 reps. Next week, 15 pounds for 8 reps, 10 reps, 12 reps. And then week 5, let's say if you want to be in that hypertrophy kind of rep range, which is often described as between 6 to 12, some people would say 6 to 18, then you could move down to a 6 reps from 12 reps, but go up from 15 pounds to 17.5 pounds or 20 pounds. And so that's how you would achieve progressive overload. Of course, unless you want to become Hulk Hogan or Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're not going to indefinitely keep increasing your weights. There will come a time when you hit a plateau and you decide, well, this is enough. For me, for example, if I'm hitting 60 pounds, 70 pounds, I probably don't want to be doing any more than that, particularly at my age. I don't want to be injuring myself. But try to at least get to a decent plateau. Don't stick to those 5-pound weights. To try to get up higher if you can. And non-gym days matter as well. On my non-gym days, I focus more on lower calories. I focus more on higher fiber. Because that's where all the bulk of food is. You can consume more bulk of food with less calories when you focus more on fiber, things like your vegetables, fruits, beans, that kind of stuff. I focus more on my post-meal walking, on my overall steps, on my cardio. And that's how we can split things up. I'm just going to go to the end of the talk real quick first. And that brings me to something called calorie cycling. Now, we had a whole talk on calorie cycling. Some of you would have been there, some of you might not have, but I would urge you to go on my calorie cycling blog to have a look at it in more detail. Essentially, what you do with calorie cycling is on your resistance training days where you're focused more on your muscle, you focus on higher protein, higher calories than what's recommended on your app. And just resistance training, while on your non-resistance training days, you're more focused on your step counts, your cardio, lower calories, and more fiber. What this allows is better muscle gain on your training days, because remember, for muscle gain, you need not just protein and stimulus, but also calories. If your body is in a starvation mode, your body will not want to build muscle. Building muscle is calorie intensive. It takes up a lot of calories. Muscle themselves are expensive for the body because they use up calories even while you're resting. And so if your body perceives starvation, or if your body is perceiving that there is scarcity, your body will not want to build any muscle at that time. Okay, and so that's why you do calorie cycling. You focus on more calories on resistance training and less calories on cardio days. And of course, on your low calorie days, you could even incorporate at least 2 days a week of really low calories, what's called fasting mimicking, where you're hitting less than 1,000 calories. And if you do that 2 days in a row, that would be called a 60-hour pattern. And if you do that 2 non-consecutive days, then that would be the 5-2 pattern. And you can read more about that on that blog there. What that does, this kind of calorie cycling pattern prevents metabolic slowdown, because if you keep the exact same calories the whole time, what happens is your body's metabolism eventually slows down. So you want to swing it around a bit. So this kind of pattern prevents metabolic slowdown, also supports more muscle growth, and it's just easier to stick with. The scale weight might go down slower, but that's why I urge you to not look at scale weight. In fact, my video coming out 2 p.m. today actually is on that topic. Don't worry about the scale weight. Get that $45 biometric impedance device, and it'll tell you about your body fat percentage, your muscle mass. Focus more on those parameters. Even if a scale weight goes down really slow, and if you see a bigger reduction in body fat percentage and increase in muscle, you're getting healthier. Metabolically, you're getting a lot healthier. And this was the Matador study, which showed that people who do this kind of calorie cycling compared to continuous dieting lost quite a lot more weight. It was a 16-week study. They lost 14 kilograms versus 9 kilograms, which was continuous dieting. And calorie cycling was 14 kilograms. And so not only do you not bust your metabolism, not only do you gain more muscle, you also actually lose more weight when you do it in an intermittent way, rather than what every personal trainer is going to tell you, that's your calorie target, just do that. That's going to slow down your metabolism. That's why I recommend calorie cycling. This blog does have some information about cardio, but cardio is a topic for next week, so we'll discuss it next week. Next, we'll discuss supplements and diet. But before we do that, let's have one more set of questions and answers. Felix.
I have a question. Whether it's getting better to go out, so walking and bicycle, would that be good enough for the muscle growth, or no? That's not only for doing exercise. I mean, I want your comments on those two exercises, because I have the bicycle, and we can now go out and walk, and maybe half an hour, 20, 30 minutes every day. So your comment on that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah, so the whole division between resistance training and cardio is a bit arbitrary, because if you do, let's say, resistance training in a pattern where you're doing low weights and lots of reps, you could actually be doing a bit of cardio to the extent that you could even start sweating. And the opposite is also true. If you're bicycling up a hill, that's a lot of exercise for your legs, right? You're actually growing your calf muscles and your quadricep muscles a lot, and hamstrings, by doing that. But for the purpose of what we're coaching here, and what most personal trainers and fitness coaches would advise you, it's arbitrary, but we do like to differentiate between cardio and resistance training. And walking and cycling would definitely be in the cardio group, not in the resistance training group. So personally, for example, I'll play a lot more tennis once the summer comes. If I'm playing tennis, I would count that as my cardio. I wouldn't get on the treadmill that day. I would not get on the exercise bike that day. I wouldn't get on the elliptical that day. I've played an hour of tennis. That's really good quality cardio, So that would count as my cardio. And usually I would not try to do cardio and resistance training on the same day. I would try to have 3 to 4 resistance training days, and I would usually try to have 2 to 3 cardio days in the week. You can have one rest day if you like. I'd like to have at least, I'd like to differentiate, because on my calorie strategy, I like to consume more calories and more protein on my resistance training days, but that doesn't really help with weight loss that much. It helps a bit, but not a great amount. But I try to just maintain lower calories and more fiber, more antioxidants on my cardio days. And so I do that cycling so as to not slow down my metabolism. And so I do count cycling, tennis, soccer, whatever your interest is, I do count that as cardio, but not as resistance training.
Thank you.
Great. Let's move on to nutrition and supplements, and then we'll have a final Q&A at the end. Let's start the next session. All right, so I mean, everyone knows by now protein is probably the most important aspect of muscle growth for anabolism. So now I tend to personally fluctuate from the minimum RDA, which is 0.8 grams per kilogram per day, to the maximum, which is 1.6 grams per kilogram per day. Now, on resistance training days, clearly I would be closer to the 1.6. And personally, the things I do to try to hit that 1.6 is usually I'm having more 0% Greek yogurt with fruit. I'll often take a protein bar with me to the gym and I'll snack on that protein bar on the way back. I'll often make myself a protein smoothie before I go to the gym as well. And so those are the kind of strategies I tend to have to increase my protein intake. My baseline protein intake is probably around about the 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram per day. And I bump it up with extra Greek yogurt, extra protein bar, and extra protein shake on those resistance training days. That's usually how I do it. But remember, a lot of people, when they hear protein, they just go to McDonald's and grab a burger and they think that's their protein, but that's not really the way you need to think of it. Think of protein per calorie, which is protein density. If you're having a protein smoothie, or let's say you're having a protein bar, you could be getting 20 grams of protein for just 190 or 170 calories. But if you're having a McDonald's Mac burger, you're getting this 30 grams of protein for something like 1,000 calories. So you got to think of protein with regards to one, the density of protein, which means how many calories you're getting for the protein. And second, the protein quality. Remember, if you're having protein is the same no matter where it comes from, because protein all gets broken down into amino acids, right? It gets broken down into amino acids. So your body doesn't really know where the protein came from. But what really decides protein quality is what comes with the protein. So if you're having plant proteins like soy, lentils, legumes, chickpeas, beans, then you'll be getting fiber and polyphenols with the protein. If you're having 0% dairy, mozzarella cheese, kefir, Greek yogurt, then you're getting probiotics and calcium with the protein. If you're having fish, seafood as a source of protein, you're getting omega-3 with the protein. But if your protein source is beef jerky sticks, you're getting a lot of salt, you're getting a lot of saturated fat, you're getting a lot of preservatives. It might not be the best protein per calorie density. And so be careful of the carnivore style, keto style protein snacks, keto sticks that they advertise. It's not really based on good science. And I firmly believe one reason that all of these gym bros, you see them die early of heart attacks is because not only are they eating insane amounts of protein, and some of these people are eating 250, 300 grams a day of protein, but they're also very much eating the wrong types of protein. They're eating a lot of red meats, a lot of beef, a lot of processed red meats, which is carcinogenic, also contains a lot of saturated fat, which is really bad for heart health. Plus, often these guys are also on anabolic steroids and growth hormone and whatnot. And this is what leads to hypertrophic cardiomyopathy and heart disease and everything else. And so protein is not bad for you, but it is important to do it correctly. And don't do it like the gym bros. Our talk after next week will be on osteoporosis and bone protection. So we will talk a lot more about calcium, magnesium, vitamin K on that talk. But these things are important because, muscles are important, but so are the structures that hold your muscles. Your bones hold your muscles. Your ligaments and tendons hold your muscles. So whether it is minerals like calcium, vitamin K, and magnesium, or supplements like collagen, they all have a role, not directly for muscles, but for these connective tissues. You see a lot of gym bros criticizing collagen, saying it's trash for muscle growth, and that's true. When we have a plant protein, you really focused on the branching amino acids, the amino acids which are primarily for muscle growth. These are leucine, isovaline, valine, and collagen contains more of other kinds of amino acids. These would be things like methionine, arginine, and glycine, and hydroxyproline, proline, and arginine. So, it's a different amino acid complex for a different job. It's for your ligaments and tendons and your joints, not for your muscles. But that's important because think about it. Most people go to the gym and do sports. When they get injured, the injuries are hardly ever at the muscle level. The injuries are almost always at the tendon ligament level, whether it's tennis elbow, golfer's elbow, shoulder problems. It's all happening generally in the tendons and ligaments. And so protecting those is just as important as strengthening your muscles. Let's have a quick look at this blog here about supplements and equipment for muscle growth. I have included the blogs on the email reminder you received. So it includes all the kind of supplements that I consider for myself. I like this plant protein powder. Now you'll notice it doesn't contain as much protein as animal-based protein. One scoop contains 20 grams, while a scoop of animal-based protein powder like Costco, you get whey protein, that would be 25 grams, more protein, but this is a plant protein, not an animal protein. And what's the benefit of plant proteins? You also get all of this good stuff. You get 1.5 billion colony-forming units of probiotic. You get all these whole foods, superfoods. You get fiber, 7 grams of fiber. So you can't get fiber and probiotics in the animal-based protein because you need the fiber is what feeds the probiotic. And so you get so many more benefits. It's less protein, 5 grams less per scoop, but I see more benefit longer term. Because listen, if I was just doing bodybuilding for a competition in 6 weeks, I would probably eat animal protein because it's more anabolic. But if you're doing something which is more a long-term strategy, plant protein is better from a long-term strategy point of view. Women, particularly if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, you will get some extra benefit from a soy protein as well. So maybe mix and match between that plant protein and the soy protein, because it also contains soy isoflavones, which is a phytoestrogen, which will reduce perimenopausal symptoms. It will improve bone density, reduce insulin resistance. This is a whole topic in itself. Soy has so many benefits particularly for women. It reduces the risk of breast cancer as well. Creatine is primarily methionine, arginine, and glycine. And this is something which a person would take 5 grams a day and would just essentially increase the amount of energy you have. Interestingly, not only does creatine increase energy in your muscle, but also increases energy in your brain. There is evidence that it also leads to better cognitive function and better memory. And they're even studying creatine to try to prevent dementia. So 5 grams of creatine a day. Essentially how it works is it's a phosphate donor. So in your body, in every cell in your body, you have mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of your cell. And what they do is they convert ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate, to ADP, adenosine diphosphate. You might remember this from biology class when you were in school. What creatine does is it forms a compound which donates a phosphate molecule to the ADP and converts that ADP back to ATP. So that's almost like a reverse Krebs cycle. And so you essentially end up with more ATP, which is energy units in your body, in your cells, which increases the total amount of energy that you have. But it takes about 3 weeks to build up. So if you take creatine every day, it'll take about 3 weeks for you to get higher saturation of creatine in your body. You do gain some water weight with creatine, but we're not worried about scale weight. It's really important to understand. We want to lose belly fat and increase muscle mass. If you gain some water weight, don't get too psyched up about that. Omega-3 has been shown to also help with increasing muscle growth. I recommend the one you can get from Costco, the triple strength. I quite like the triple strength one. There's a vegan brand here as well for anyone who's vegan, because it does contain gelatin. It's a capsule. I do recommend everyone should be on a daily multivitamin. This will contain, I recommend the Jameson one. I like it because it also contains some supporting nutrients like choline, lutein, and lycopene, and also contains 1,000 units of vitamin D, which I appreciate. A lot of multivitamins don't contain that. There is a 50+ version and a under 50 version for this. If you're taking vitamin D, I don't think you need to really bother with the low strength 1,000 units. Just take the 2,500 units. It's dirt cheap. Look, $5 for 6 months supply. Why would you not buy this? Personally, I would just take 2,500 units over winter, fall, and spring. And over the summer, I would just take the multivitamin because the multivitamin already contains 1,000 units of vitamin D. But over the winters, I would take both the multivitamin as well as the high strength vitamin D. If summer's coming, if you're planning on sweaty workouts and all that, consider one of these 0-calorie Gatorades. It's really useful. It comes in these 4 flavors, and it contains only 5 calories per pouch. So, one of the biggest problems with doing a lot of exercise and cardio is that you're tired, you're exhausted, psychologically you feel, I've earned this, I've just done a lot of exercise. You burn like 500 calories and you end up drinking orange juice and grabbing a croissant, which is like 1,000 calories. So you just overate and over compensated for the amount of exercise you did. This is such a common pattern. And one way around it is to just use something like a 0-calorie Gatorade with all these flavors. And I would never go to play tennis without one of these full bottles, sometimes even 2 bottles of this. And this helps me reduce the post-exercise kind of cravings you get and ending up just binging on a lot of calories and undoing all the good you've done. These are some protein bars you could consider. This is Quest. It's based upon whey animal protein, but they actually add a bunch of fiber into it. So the macros are kind of crazy. It contains, for just 170 calories, 20 grams of protein and 12 grams of fiber. You can get it at Costco as well, the exact same bar. And this one as well, you can get at Costco as well. This is a pure plant protein. I personally prefer pure plant proteins. There's another bar called True Bar, which also is similar. It contains more fiber. It also has protein, but less protein, 13 grams of protein. And so, yeah, these are things you can consider after you exercise. And of course, you can also consider things like collagen to build up your marine collagen. Again, you can get this at Costco as well. And you can get a much bigger tub at Costco. And I like collagen. I mix it in my coffee. And it's not just good for your ligaments and tendons and joints, but also for your skin. And if you're looking after skin benefits, consider oral hyaluronic acid as well. I like this one. Contains 200 milligrams hyaluronic acid, good for your skin, good for your joints. Contains a bit of biotin and some vitamin C as well for recovery. And yeah, helps in collagen formations, joint health, etc. It's a good formulation that I like. And finally, just to give you all some motivation for how you could design your own home gym, I have divided in my blog exercises into upper body push, upper body pull, core, lower body, and cardio. And I have included a whole bunch of things that you could consider purchasing from Amazon, ranging from pull-up bars to kettlebells to resistance bands, to barbells. Like, for example, you don't like doing sit-ups because it messes up your clothes. Get yourself an ab roller, just $19. And you can start working on your abs without having to get on the floor, There is a lot of just inspiration. Look, ankle weights, body vests, weighted vests, skipping ropes, bicycles, walkers. I use this one myself. I have it in my house. It's a solid machine. I actually do walking on this. The pictures show that you can be doing it sitting down, but I actually walk on this. It's quite sturdy. And there's a lot of stuff you could do to get your steps in to get things done. Okay, so the blogs I have already linked on the notes and the email reminder that I sent you. We only have 2 minutes, so let's have one last question, and make sure you attend next week for cardio. Very important talk on cardio next week. Let's have one last question, guys. Don't know if Upasana has one more question, or maybe she's in a meeting already. Or
Can
perhaps
I ask a
Maulik.
question, doctor?
Anju, go ahead.
Yeah. For taking these vitamins, do you need to split it over the day, the whole day, or you can just take them all together?
You can just take them all together in the morning. Yeah,
Oh,
just
in
a
the
few things
morning.
to
Okay.
just a few things to bear in mind. If something contains probiotics, like the plant protein contains probiotics, do not take it with anything hot. So don't mix that in your coffee, for example. You can mix collagen in coffee, but you can't mix a probiotic containing plant protein in coffee because the heat will kill the probiotic. Second thing to remember would be certain things like magnesium, mineral, magnesium, melatonin are usually taken in the evening. Everything else can be taken in the morning.
Okay.
Also, if you're taking thyroid medication, then you have to at least have 1 hour gap before you take anything. Some people worry about soy isoflavones and soy containing supplements like soy protein powder with thyroid. There is no real evidence that there's any harm in absorption of iodine or anything like that. Keep at least a 1 hour gap. But if you're worried about that, make it a longer gap, make it a 12-hour gap. If you're having thyroid first thing in the morning, take your soy supplement in the evening. But if you look at the scientific published evidence, there is no major contraindication or downside. If anything, soy is very, very beneficial for particularly for menopausal and perimenopausal women. Increases bone density, reduces risk for breast cancer, reverses insulin resistance. So lots of benefits of soy isoflavones. And if you look at my menopause blog, there is one called Super Soy, 2.51 concentrate by CBI. It's a really good soy isoflavone, which I'd recommend. And the other thing you can consider also is soy protein powder, something to consider as well. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's the talk done for today, everyone. Good to see everyone. Take care.
Okay.
Okay. I'll catch up with
Thanks,
you again.
doctor. Thank
Bye-bye.
you so much. Bye.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rawat. Thank you. Have a good day.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.